The arrogant empire. In the crystalline halls of the Veluri imperial palace, Supreme Emperor Crics stood before a massive holographic display of the galaxy. His 4 arms crossed behind his back, his silver scales reflecting the light of 1,000 star systems under Veluri control. For 3 millennia, his species had dominated the known universe, their technology unmatched, their military might unquestioned. The Veluri were beings of pure logic and calculated conquest, standing 12 feet tall with elongated heads and neural implants that connected them to their vast collective consciousness. They had evolved beyond emotion, beyond fear, beyond doubt. They were, in their own estimation, the pinnacle of galactic evolution. "My Emperor," interrupted science advisor Zeth, her scales shifting to a respectful blue hue. "The archaeological team has discovered something unusual in the Galactic Council's abandoned archives on Kepler 7. Emperor Crics turned, his 6 eyes focusing on the advisor with mild interest. The Galactic Council had dissolved centuries ago, its members either conquered by the Veluri or fled to the Outer Rim. Their archives were considered nothing more than historical curiosities. What manner of discovery disturbs my contemplation of conquest?" Crics's voice resonated through the chamber like a deep harmonic chord. Zeth activated her neural interface, projecting an image of an ancient crystalline tablet. The writing upon it glowed with an eerie phosphorescence, the script appearing to shift and change as if alive. "This tablet, my Emperor, dates back nearly 10,000 years. It contains a warning, repeated in over 300 languages. The message is peculiar." The tablet's translation appeared in the air. "Let this warning echo through eternity. The species known as humans, dwelling upon the blue world they call Earth, must never be provoked to war. They appear primitive, divided, and weak. This is their greatest deception. We, the United Council of Galaxies, learned this truth at terrible cost. Their creativity knows no bounds. Their adaptability defies logic. Their determination transcends death itself. When threatened, they become something beyond comprehension. Approach with respect, trade in peace, but never, ever, mistake their kindness for weakness." Emperor Crics's scales shifted to an amused purple. His species had long ago eliminated the capacity for laughter, but the closest equivalent rippled through his neural patterns. "Humans." He turned to his military advisor, General Vorn. "Our deep space probes cataloged this Earth 20 cycles ago. Carbon-based mammals, barely spacefaring, still using primitive combustion engines and binary computing systems. They haven't even achieved faster-than-light travel." General Vorn's tactical implants glowed as he accessed the data. "Confirmed, my Emperor. Earth possesses minimal orbital defenses, fragmented governments, and they still wage wars among themselves with projectile weapons. Their strongest military assets are nuclear fission devices, technology we abandoned as obsolete 5,000 years ago. And yet," Zeth interjected carefully, "this warning exists. The Council wouldn't have created such an elaborate message without cause." Emperor Crics waved a dismissive arm. "The Council fell because they were weak, ruled by fear and superstition. We are Veluri. We have conquered species that could manipulate time, that could phase between dimensions. These humans, with their primitive tools and fractured society, pose no threat to our empire." He strode to the tactical display, his neural implants interfacing directly with the strategic planning matrix. "Earth's location is strategically valuable. It sits at the intersection of 3 major trade routes. Their planet is rich in rare minerals, and their population of 8 billion would serve well in our labor colonies. Shall I prepare the diplomatic protocols for first contact, my Emperor?" asked Vorn. Again, that purple hue of amusement colored Crics's scales. "Diplomacy, for primitives who still burn fossil fuels. No, General. Prepare the 7th Fleet. We will take Earth as we have taken 1,000 worlds before it. Let these humans learn what it means to face the might of the Veluri Empire." Within hours, the 7th Fleet assembled at the staging point near Vega Prime. 500 ships of the line, each one a masterpiece of Veluri engineering. Dreadnoughts that could crack moons, carriers launching swarms of eye-controlled fighters, and the flagship itself, the inevitable supremacy, a vessel so large it generated its own gravity field. Admiral Fex commanded from the Supremacy's bridge, her neural crown connecting her consciousness to every ship in the fleet. Through her eyes, Emperor Crics watched the preparations, his own awareness riding the quantum communication network that linked all Veluri across the galaxy. "The fleet is ready, my Emperor," Fex reported. "Earth's defensive capabilities have been analyzed. They have approximately 2,000 primitive satellites, a single space station, and their most advanced spacecraft require chemical propulsion. Our shields could withstand their entire nuclear arsenal without strain." "Then proceed," Crics commanded. "Take the planet intact if possible. Their biological diversity could be useful for our genetic experiments, but show no hesitation if they resist. Examples must be made." The Seventh Fleet engaged their hyperdrive engines, reality bending around them as they jumped across the light years. In moments, they emerged at the edge of Earth's solar system, their arrival sending ripples through local spacetime that any advanced civilization would detect instantly. Through the fleet's sensors, they observed Earth, a blue marble swirled with white clouds, its night side glittering with the lights of primitive cities. A single gray moon orbited lazily around it. To Veluri eyes, it looked exactly like countless other primitive worlds they had conquered. "Commence scanning," Admiral Fex ordered. "Identify military installations, communication hubs, and population centers. Prepare for standard subjugation protocols." The scans revealed what they expected. Military bases scattered across the planet's surface, primitive radar installations, submarine vessels hiding in the oceans, and aircraft that still required runways. Nothing that could threaten even their smallest frigate. "My Emperor," Fex reported, "the humans have detected our presence. Their communication networks are flooding with activity. Several of their leaders are attempting to broadcast messages toward our fleet." "Ignore them," Crics commanded. "Begin the assault. Target their military installations first, then their satellites. Once they're blind and defenseless, we'll broadcast our terms of surrender." Admiral Fex's scales shifted to battle red as she transmitted the attack order. "All ships, commence bombardment. Disable their defenses and prepare for planetary occupation." The first wave of Veluri weapons fire lanced toward Earth from extreme range. Beams of concentrated energy that could vaporize asteroids streaked through space toward human military installations. The Veluri watched with professional satisfaction, expecting to see the primitive human defenses crumble instantly. But something unexpected happened. The energy beams struck empty air, dissipating harmlessly kilometers above their targets. Where there should have been nothing, a shimmering barrier appeared, rippling like water where each beam struck. "Admiral," the weapons officer reported, confusion evident in his neural patterns, "our attacks are being deflected. The humans appear to have some form of planetary shielding." Fex's 6 eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our scans showed no evidence of shield generators. Increase power and concentrate fire." The fleet unleashed a second barrage, 10 times more powerful than the first. Energy sufficient to crack continents poured toward Earth. Again, the mysterious shield absorbed everything, growing brighter with each impact, but never failing. "My Emperor," Fex's voice carried a note of concern. "The humans possess defensive technology we failed to detect. Permission to deploy antimatter weapons." Before Crics could respond, something extraordinary happened. Across Earth's surface, hidden installations revealed themselves. Mountainsides opened to expose massive weapons platforms. Ocean waters parted to release structures that had been concealed beneath the seafloor. The planet's moon itself seemed to shimmer, revealing a surface covered not in craters, but in carefully camouflaged defensive installations. "Admiral," the sensor officer's neural patterns spiked with alarm. "Massive energy signatures detected. The readings are, this doesn't match any known technology." From Earth's surface, beams of exotic energy erupted skyward. Not the crude lasers or particle weapons the Veluri expected, but something entirely different. Weapons that seemed to bend space itself, that played havoc with the fundamental forces of physics. The first beam struck a Veluri destroyer. The ship's shields, designed to withstand supernovas, flickered and died. The vessel itself began to twist, its molecular structure unraveling, as if time itself was being reversed. Within seconds, a warship that had taken decades to build simply ceased to exist. Evasive action. Fex commanded, her neural crown blazing as she tried to coordinate the fleet's response. Return fire, all weapons. But the human attack was just beginning. From the lunar installations, swarms of objects launched, not missiles or fighters, but something far more terrifying. Tiny spheres, no larger than marbles, that moved through space at impossible speeds, ignoring the laws of physics the Veluri thought absolute. These spheres passed through Veluri shields as if they didn't exist. When they struck ship hulls, they didn't explode. They simply erased perfect spherical sections of matter, leaving holes that vented atmosphere and crew into the void. They're using quantum weapons, the science officer reported in disbelief. Miniaturized singularities. This technology is theoretically impossible. Emperor Crics watched through the fleet's sensors as his mighty armada began to falter. Ships were disappearing, torn apart by weapons that defied understanding. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were demonstrating a level of technology that made Veluri achievements look primitive by comparison. How? Crics's mental voice echoed across the quantum network. How do primitives who still use wheeled vehicles possess such weapons? The answer came not from his own people, but from Earth itself. Every communication system in the Veluri fleet activated simultaneously, displaying the image of a human, a middle-aged woman in simple clothing, her eyes carrying a weight of knowledge that seemed impossible for such a young species. "I am Director Sarah Chen of Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative," she said, her voice calm despite the battle raging around her planet. "Emperor Crics of the Veluri, you were warned." The Galactic Council's message was clear, but like so many before you, you chose not to listen. Crics's neural patterns flared with indignation. "You dare address me, primitive. Your temporary advantage means nothing. We are the Veluri. We have conquered galaxies." Chen's expression remained serene. "You conquered civilizations that fought as you expected them to fight. You've never faced humans. You see, Emperor, we've been watching the galaxy for a very long time. We saw the rise and fall of the Council. We observed your empire's expansion. And we learned. On the tactical display, more human weapons platforms revealed themselves. Structures that had been hidden in plain sight. Office buildings that were actually weapon installations. Satellites that were far more than communication relays. Even asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter that now powered up with ominous energy signatures. Your scouts saw what we wanted them to see," Chen continued. "They detected the technology we chose to display. Yes, we still use wheeled vehicles and chemical rockets, because they work and because they helped maintain our camouflage. But did you think a species that went from horse-drawn carriages to nuclear power in less than a century had somehow stopped advancing?" The battle outside reached a crescendo. Veluri ships were being systematically dismantled by weapons that seemed to operate outside the known laws of physics. The mighty dreadnought's armor meant nothing against devices that could manipulate matter at the quantum level. "You're wondering how," Chen said, as if reading Crics's thoughts. "The answer is simple. Humans possess something your species sacrificed in your quest for perfection: imagination. You solved problems through logical progression. We solved them by asking what if. You developed technology step by step. We made wild leaps, crazy theories, impossible dreams. And sometimes, those dreams became reality." Admiral Fex's voice cut through the communication. "My Emperor, we've lost 40% of the fleet. Our shields are failing against their quantum weapons. Recommend immediate withdrawal." Crics' scales flared with colors his species hadn't displayed in millennia. Fear, confusion, and worst of all, doubt. The perfect certainty that had defined the Veluri for thousands of years was cracking like ice under spring sun. "Retreat," he commanded, the word tasting like ashes in his neural pathways. "All ships, emergency jump to rally point 7. But as the Veluri ships began to power up their hyperdrives, space itself seemed to thicken around them. The familiar sensation of reality bending gave way to something else, a feeling of being trapped, like insects in amber. "Jump drives are not responding," the navigation officer reported. "It's as if space itself is solidified around us." Director Chen's image remained on screen, her expression now carrying a hint of steel. "Did you think we'd let you leave so easily? You came here to enslave our world, to destroy our culture, to make us another trophy in your empire. That cannot go unanswered." Around the trapped Veluri fleet, human ships began to appear. Not the primitive vessels the scouts had reported, but sleek craft that seemed to slide between dimensions, their hulls flowing like liquid metal, their weapons pods glowing with energies that hurt to perceive directly. "Your Majesty," Chen continued, "I want you to understand something. Humans don't crave war. We dream of peace, of exploration, of art and science and love. But when threatened, when our children's future is at stake, we become something else entirely. The Council learned this. They tried to warn others. You should have listened." The human ships moved with impossible grace, surrounding the battered Veluri fleet. But they didn't attack. They simply waited, weapons trained but unfired. "What do you want?" Crics asked, his mental voice stripped of its earlier arrogance. Chen leaned forward slightly. "We want you to return to your empire. We want you to tell them what happened here. And we want you to spread the word. Earth is under our protection. Any species is welcome to visit in peace, to trade, to share knowledge. But anyone who comes with conquest in their hearts will face the full might of human ingenuity." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You see, Emperor, your species gave up emotion in favor of logic. But emotions, fear, love, anger, hope, these are what drive innovation. They push us to imagine the impossible. Your people calculate odds. Our people defy them." The strange hold on space relaxed, and the Veluri ships found their hyperdrives responsive again. Admiral Fex looked to her emperor, waiting for orders. Crics' neural crown dimmed as he processed this unprecedented defeat. His empire had never retreated, never negotiated, never been shown mercy by those they sought to conquer. The logical action would be to return with a larger fleet, to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. But looking at the human ships, at weapons that operated on principles his best scientists couldn't fathom, he understood what the Galactic Council had learned so long ago. Humans weren't just advanced. They were unpredictable. They didn't follow the rules that governed other species' development. "We withdraw," Crics commanded, each word a struggle against his species' ingrained superiority. "Set course for Veluri Prime." As the battered fleet prepared to jump, Director Chen spoke one last time. "Emperor Crics, there's an Earth saying, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. Humans have been forging themselves in the fires of adversity since we climbed down from the trees. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and our own mistakes. Each challenge made us stronger, more creative, more determined. Remember that, should you ever consider returning with hostile intent." The image faded, and the Veluri fleet, reduced to barely half its original strength, jumped away from Earth. As they traveled through hyperspace, Emperor Crics accessed the ancient warning one more time. The words seemed different now, carrying weight he hadn't perceived before. In the following days, as news of the defeat spread through the Veluri Empire, something unprecedented happened. Other species, long subjugated by Veluri might, began to whisper. They spoke of the humans, of the warnings ignored, of the price of arrogance. And in the deepest archives of a dozen conquered worlds, other tablets were found, all carrying the same message, the same warning about the seemingly primitive species that called Earth home. The galaxy had rediscovered respect for the old warnings. But for the Veluri Empire, the lesson had come at a terrible cost. Their aura of invincibility was shattered, their technological superiority questioned. As Emperor Crics stood in his palace, staring at the holographic display of the galaxy, he found himself focusing on one small blue world. Earth spun peacefully in its orbit, looking exactly as it had before the battle. But now he knew the truth. Beneath that peaceful exterior lay a species unlike any other. A species that had looked at the stars and said, "What if?" A species that had been underestimated one too many times. A species that the galaxy would never again mistake for primitive. The warning had been there all along. They just should have listened. Part 2. The Human Response. Director Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative, watching as the last of the Veluri ships vanished into hyperspace. Around her, holographic displays showed the status of Earth's defensive systems, most still operating at less than 10% capacity. She allowed herself a small smile. Even that fraction had been enough. "Stand down to condition yellow," she ordered. "Maintain surveillance grid at maximum sensitivity. I want to know if they so much as point a telescope in our direction." The command center, buried 3 kilometers beneath Mount Cheyenne, gradually relaxed from its combat alertness. Operators who had been focused on their stations for the past hour finally took deep breaths, some reaching for coffee that had gone cold during the battle. General Marcus Rivera, Earth's military commander, approached Chen with a tablet displaying casualty reports. His weathered face showed relief mixed with concern. "Minimal casualties on our side, Director. 3 orbital platforms damaged but repairable. The Veluri never got close enough to threaten civilian populations." Chen nodded, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface as she reviewed data from the engagement. They responded exactly as our psychosocial models predicted. Overwhelming force, minimal reconnaissance, complete underestimation of their opponent. Classic apex predator behavior. "Still," Rivera said, lowering his voice, "we showed a lot of our hand today. The quantum weapons, the dimensional shields, the space-lock technology. That's decades of hidden development now exposed." Chen turned from the displays to face him. "It was inevitable, Marcus. The galaxy's getting smaller. More species achieving FTL travel, more empires expanding. We couldn't hide forever." She gestured to a wall display showing a star map. "Besides, sometimes the best defense is making sure everyone knows you have it." On the star map, points of light indicated known civilizations. The Veluri Empire dominated nearly a third of the galaxy, shown in aggressive red. But now, Earth pulsed with a new designation, a gold star marking it as a deterrent-class civilization. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's chief scientist, joined them. Her usually calm demeanor was still flushed with excitement from the battle. "The quantum singularity weapons performed beyond expectations," she reported. "The Veluri shields couldn't adapt to the constantly shifting quantum states. It's like trying to stop water with a net designed for rocks." "And they'll be analyzing the attack patterns right now," Chen mused, "trying to develop countermeasures. How long before they could theoretically adapt?" Tanaka considered. "With their current understanding of physics, 50 years minimum. But that assumes they don't make the same breakthrough we did with quantum consciousness theory. If they figure that out," she shrugged, "maybe a decade. Then we have time to prepare for round 2, Rivera said grimly. "Because they'll be back. Powers like the Veluri don't accept defeat easily." Chen walked to the central holographic projector, activating a display that showed Earth in real time. Cities sparkled on the night side while clouds swirled in complex patterns. To most observers, it looked like a typical inhabited world. The hidden defenses had already retracted, camouflaged once more. "Actually, I don't think they will," she said thoughtfully. "The Veluri are logical creatures. They'll run the cost-benefit analysis. They've seen our defensive capabilities, but they don't know the extent of our offensive ones. Coming back would risk not just another defeat, but potentially their entire empire. She manipulated the display, zooming out to show the solar system. Computer, display Project Damacles. The image shifted, revealing something that hadn't been visible during the battle. In the asteroid belt, among the thousands of regular asteroids, were hundreds of objects that looked identical to the space rocks around them. But as the display highlighted them, their true nature became clear. Each was a disguised weapon platform, dormant but ready. Damacles. Rivera raised an eyebrow. As in the sword hanging by a thread, Chen explained. Each of these platforms contains a faster-than-light quantum torpedo. No shields can stop them. No point defense can intercept them. They're programmed with the coordinates of every major Veluri world, military installation, and fleet base. Tanaka's eyes widened. You're talking about a doomsday deterrent, mutually assured destruction on a galactic scale. Exactly, Chen confirmed. If Earth falls, if our defensive grid is overwhelmed, these platforms activate automatically. The Veluri Empire would cease to exist within hours. She turned back to her colleagues. Of course, they don't know about Damacles, but they're smart enough to suspect we have something similar. That uncertainty is our greatest defense. The command center's main screen flickered, displaying an incoming message notification. The communication officer looked up in surprise. Director, we're receiving a transmission. It's from the Galactic Council remnants, the ones in hiding. Chen raised an eyebrow. Put it through. The screen resolved into an image of a being none of them had seen before, a crystalline entity that seemed to be made of living light. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonics that suggested great age. Humans of Earth, it began. I am Illuminate Zora of the former Galactic Council. We have monitored your engagement with the Veluri Empire. It has been illuminating. Illuminate Zora, Chen responded formally. We're honored by your contact. We were under the impression the Council had completely dissolved. The crystalline being pulsed with what might have been amusement. Dissolved, yes. Destroyed, no. Some of us withdrew to places the conquerors could not follow. We have watched, waited, and hoped. Today, that hope has been rewarded. The image expanded to show others behind Zora. Beings of various species, all showing signs of great age or the weight of long exile. Chen recognized some from historical records. The telepathic Niran, the shape-shifting Morpha, the time-sensitive Cronians. You honored the old warning, Zora continued. But more than that, you've done what we could not. You've shown the galaxy that might does not always make right, that there are powers beyond mere technology or numbers. General Rivera stepped forward. With respect, Illuminate, we're not interested in becoming the galaxy's police force. We just want to be left alone to develop in peace. And that, Zora replied, is precisely why you may be the ones to restore balance. The Council fell because we tried to control, to guide, to manage. You simply defend. You offer friendship to those who come in peace and deterrence to those who come in war. Dr. Tanaka couldn't contain her scientific curiosity. Your crystalline structure, it's not silicon-based. It appears to be some form of organized photonic matrix. How do you maintain coherence? Zora pulsed brighter, clearly pleased by the question. Ah, human scientist. Already your mind leaps to possibilities. This trait of yours, this insatiable curiosity coupled with imaginative leaps, it's what makes your species unique. The Veluri achieve through calculation, the Drasnians through biological adaptation, the quantum through energy manipulation. But humans, you achieve through dreams made real. Chen felt the weight of history in this moment. What are you proposing, Illuminate? Nothing so formal as the old council, Zora assured. But perhaps a communication network, a way for peaceful species to share knowledge, to warn of threats, to celebrate achievements. Not a governing body, but a community. She gestured, and the star map appeared again. but now showing trade routes, scientific exchanges, cultural connections. The positive networks that had once bound the galaxy together before empires and conquests tore them apart. The Veluri defeat will ripple across the galaxy, Zora continued. Species will question their overlords. Rebellions will spark. The established order will shift. In that chaos, voices of reason will be needed. Chen looked at Rivera and Tanaka, seeing her own thoughts reflected in their faces. Earth had spent centuries hiding, developing in secret, watching the galaxy from the shadows. But today's battle had changed everything. They couldn't go back to being invisible. We'll consider it, Chen said finally. But on our terms, Earth remains independent. We share what we choose to share. And anyone who threatens any member of this network faces the same response the Veluri received today. Zora's form brightened. More than fair. We will send you the quantum frequencies for secure communication. Use them when you're ready. The crystalline being paused. One more thing, Director Chen. The weapon you didn't use today. The one that frightened the Veluri more than your quantum munitions or dimensional shields. Chen frowned. We used everything necessary for defense. Precisely, Zora said with what might have been a smile. You had the power to destroy them utterly, but you chose mercy. That restraint, that moral choice despite your technological might, that's what truly terrifies empires built on conquest. They understand weapons. They don't understand conscience. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in thoughtful silence. Through the displays, Earth continued its rotation, blue and white, and beautiful, looking no different than it had that morning. But everything had changed. Orders, Director. The communication officer asked. Chen straightened, feeling the weight of humanity's new role in galactic affairs. Maintain our watch. Begin analysis of all data from the engagement. And she paused, making a decision that would shape humanity's future. Open a secure channel to our deep space monitoring stations. If we're going to be part of the galactic community, we need to know who our neighbors really are. Over the following days, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The news of the Veluri defeat spread faster than light, carried by quantum communicators, and whispered in secret gatherings. On a dozen worlds, species that had bent knee to the Empire began to stand a little straighter. On Veluri Prime, Emperor Crics faced his war council, trying to explain how primitive humans had possessed technology beyond their comprehension. His scales had never quite returned to their normal silver, maintaining tinges of the uncertain purples and blues he'd shown during the retreat. We could assemble the entire fleet, General Vorn suggested, though his tactical implants calculated the odds of success at less than favorable. Overwhelm them with sheer numbers. And if they have more surprises, Crics countered. If what we saw was only a fraction of their capability. He activated a hologram of Earth. No, we must reconsider our approach. Perhaps the old ways of conquest are no longer viable. It was a thought that would have been heretical days before, but the human victory had shattered more than ships. It had broken the myth of Veluri invincibility. Back on Earth, in a small cafe in Geneva, Sarah Chen sat across from an old friend, Professor James Wright, who had taught her quantum physics 20 years earlier. He was one of the few outside the Defense Initiative who knew the truth about Earth's capabilities. So we're not hiding anymore, Wright mused, stirring his coffee. The cat's out of the bag, as it were. Chen smiled tiredly. More like the tiger, though I suspect we've only shown our claws, not our teeth. And Project Exodus? Wright asked quietly, referring to the ultra-secret colony ships hidden in the outer system. Still our insurance policy, Chen assured him. If worse comes to worst, humanity survives elsewhere, but I'm hopeful it won't come to that. Wright leaned back, studying his former student. You know, when I taught you about quantum uncertainty, I never imagined you'd weaponize it. That's the thing about humans, Chen replied, echoing something the crystalline being had said. We don't just learn facts. We imagine possibilities. The Veluri look at quantum mechanics and see equations. We look at it and see miracles waiting to happen. Through the cafe window, life continued as normal. People walked their dogs. Children played in the park. Couples held hands. None of them knew how close they'd come to slavery or worse. None of them knew their world was now a fortress disguised as a garden. In the months that followed, Earth received its first official alien visitors, not conquerors, but diplomats and scientists. The Niran came to study human neural plasticity. The Morpha were fascinated by human art and its constant reinvention. The Cronians wanted to understand how humans perceive time so differently from other species. Each visit reinforced what the Galactic Council had discovered long ago. Humans were not what they appeared to be. Their cities were weapons platforms in disguise. Their artists were strategic thinkers. Their children played games that were actually military simulations. Their entire civilization was built on the principle that today's impossibility was tomorrow's reality. The Veluri Empire never attacked Earth again. They turned their attention to other frontiers, but found their expansion increasingly difficult. Word had spread. The sleeping giant had awakened. The warning that had been ignored was now heeded. Years later, when historians would write about the turning point in galactic history, they would mark it as the day the Veluri laughed at an ancient warning and learned why the Galactic Council had written it in the first place. Earth stood ready, not as conquerors, but as guardians, not seeking war, but prepared for it. The blue marble in space, third planet from an unremarkable star, had become the stuff of legend. And across the galaxy, in languages beyond count, a new saying emerged: approach Earth in peace and find friends beyond measure. Approach Earth in war and discover why the universe learned to fear human imagination. The warning had been there all along. Now finally, the galaxy understood why. In the infinite darkness between stars, Earth spun on, keeper of secrets, cradle of dreams, and reminder that sometimes the greatest power lies not in strength alone, but in the unlimited potential of a species that refuses to accept the impossible. The Veluri had ignored the warning. They had laughed at human primitiveness. They had screamed in the face of human innovation. They would not make that mistake again. No one would.